Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
So yesterday, former Conservative Party chairman Grant Shapps resigned from the government over allegations that he had not acted on multiple claims of bullying in the youth wing of the party. It's a complicated story, so here's Giles to explain it.
Grant Shapps, former co-chair of the Conservative Party and now a former minister, must wish, as his senior aide Paul Abbott, pictured with him here, has said, that he'd never met Mark Clarke. But he did.
The other issue that happened just around here was...
Clarke, once tipped for the top by Tatler magazine, unsuccessfully fought the seat of Tooting in 2010.
So, here in Wandsworth, our local councillors...
As a result of his behaviour during that campaign, about which complaints were made, he was taken off the candidates list, a girlfriend at the time declaring he was unfit to be an MP. In early 2014, Mr Clarke approached the Conservatives, and Grant Shapps in particular, with an idea. It was simple: bus loads of young Tory activists to marginal seats during the 2015 general election campaign to doorstep constituents. In the face of unshifting polls, the idea appealed to Conservative central headquarters, but they wanted to have some control over it. Grant Shapps decided not only to back the idea, but help pay for it, and put Clarke in charge of the operation.
You're going to be a part of this next time, that you're going to help change the future of our country.
Roadtrip 2015, as the plan was called, had another motive for Clarke: to see him back on the Conservative candidate list. And perhaps he would have, and this story ended, if not for the apparent suicide in mid-September of a young activist called Elliot Johnson.
We as students make up...
who left a note, naming Mark Clarke as someone who'd been bullying him, and a secret recording of Clarke challenging him in a pub. In the wake of Elliot Johnson's death, lurid allegations emerged about Clarke, alleging sexual misconduct, drugs, intimidation, blackmail and bullying, all connected to Roadtrip, all denied by Mark Clarke. But August email exchanges between Mr Clarke and Mr Shapps' aide, Paul Abbott, show Mr Abbott was aware of complaints during the campaign in May. Nothing was done, and since Mr Shapps gave Clarke an official party role, he's now resigned, saying the buck stops with me. But does it? The Prime Minister says a full internal investigation is underway. Elliot Johnson's father wants an independent, external investigation. The most serious allegations about Clarke were made after Grant Shapps had been moved to a junior ministerial position, and Lord Feldman, David Cameron's chief fundraiser and close friend, was made sole chairman. He says the party cannot find, nor was he aware, of any written complaints before August. If by falling on his sword Mr Shapps hoped to stop the scandal spreading, he may actually only have become its first high-profile casualty.
Sunday Politics panel is here. Nick, here's the case for Shapps. He's been made a scapegoat, and that this is not the end of the story, as the Tories hope that they can close it down.
Yes, I think it is not the end of the story. I mean, obviously Grant Shapps, did sign up Mark Clarke to do this. But I do think this is getting awfully close to the door of Andrew Feldman,
who is now the sole chairman of the Tory party.
Has been
close
since the
mate
general
of
election.
the Prime Ministers,
That's
Brasenose
right.
College together,
That's
organised
right.
the summer balls.
Yeah.
They go back a long way.
That's right. Now, the significant thing is that this road trip was run out of Conservative campaign headquarters in the run-up to the general election. And really, most significantly for Andrew Feldman is that he signed the cheques to allow this road trip to take place. And we're not talking small cheques here. We are talking many hundreds of thousands of pounds. And yes, Grant Shapps was sort of in charge of the running on a day-to-day basis. But Lord Feldman wrote the cheques. It was run out of CCHQ, and his sister, Deborah Feldman, helped Grant Shapps run the Road Trip 2015.
I mean, the Tories may hope that by throwing Grant Shapps to the wolves, this closes it down. But quite often in these circumstances, what it does, it puts all the attention onto somebody else. And I would suggest that the attention now will be, what did Andrew Feldman do? What did he know, and when did he know it, and what did he do about it?
Absolutely, and I think going back to Nick's point, what we have to remember was Baroness Varsi, who was co-chairman, kicked this guy out of the party, kicked Clarke out of the party. Feldman was chairman then, Shapps brought him back, Feldman was co-chairman then, and Feldman is still the chairman now. And in terms of the party, what some people were saying to me yesterday was, actually, this can't be seen that Cameron is protecting Lord Feldman because he is his friend. Lord Feldman has a responsibility for the entire party and all the young activists as well, and I think that he has got questions to answer. And I also think that if people who are in the party feel that these questions aren't being answered and it isn't an open process, then loads more leaks will come out and it will just get messier and messier and messier.
And it's a rump-do, isn't it, what was going on inside the Tory party and in its youth wing. I mean, multiple accusations of bullying and sexual harassment and so on, culminating in this young man taking his life on a railway line. It's an appalling thing that's going on here.
It is. I mean, there is a history of unusual behaviour amongst Conservative students going back to the 1980s when Norman Tebbit actually closed down the Federation of Conservative Students. This is the most extreme instance of it I've ever encountered. And
that was all about, you know, political nuttiness.
That was extremism rather than...
This is about personal behaviour.
Absolutely. And Elliot Johnson's parents raise a very important question of chronology, which is that Grant Shapps stopped being co-chairman in May. Some of the allegations against Mark Clarke, some of the complaints surfaced as recently as August. Who was culpable in the intervening period? And so questions will inevitably go towards Andrew Feldman. And there is a deeper structural problem, which is that the Conservative Party doesn't have activists. And so they have to find them where they can get them. Or when someone has a reputation as bad as Mark Clarke, they still end up going along with him because their options are so limited.
All right, well, it certainly won't be the end of the story.
I've been